And millions of Americans are still feeling the heat. At least 33 states saw temperatures reach 90 degrees on Friday, and it's a trend that scientists say will likely continue in the future. For more on the hot weather and how Texas is handling things, let's bring in Emily Foxhall. She's an energy reporter for the Texas Tribune. Texas's infrastructure has struggled to keep up with the extreme weather in the past. So how is the state's power grid faring in this heat wave?
The power grid has been doing well, but a lot of people here in Texas have been watching it closely.
Well, tell us more about the role right now that solar power is playing in Texas, especially as the state copes through this heat wave right now.
Sure, we've been seeing record demand for power here in Texas over the last week or two. And experts have really credited solar and wind power for getting us through these sort of tighter than usual times or higher demand than usual times. We have a ton of solar that's come on the grid in Texas in the last few years, and the demand during the day gets highest as people are coming home from work and turning on TV and starting to cook their dinner. So when that demand is highest is also when the sun is shining really brightly at the end of the afternoon. So people have really credited that increase in solar for keeping the grid going well.
And how does that compare to more to other forms of electricity? For instance, how have electricity bills been in the state this summer?
Sure. Advocates of renewable energy like solar and wind are always pointing to how they're cheaper forms of power. So that has definitely helped with bills overall when you talk to people who really study these issues. But I think it's also important to look at having a mix of energy on the grid is also really important because solar, of course, can't run overnight when the sun has set, and the wind power isn't always running if the wind's not blowing. So people have also looked at how that overall resource mix has really helped during all parts of the day and overnight.
I know the federal government recently awarded more than $60 million to the Texas Division of Emergency Management. What will that money be used for?
That's going to what they're calling grid resiliency. So it's helping with the transmission lines and distribution lines that you might see. And it's going to be up to the state of Texas to decide how to award that money. So it could go for trimming trees around power lines or other sort of resilience measures like that.
And we know this stemmed in part from that awful winter storm you all had back in 2021. And now that the state is getting this funding, how long will it take for the state to update its power grid with this new funding?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. That's why the last few weeks with all this heat has had a lot of us on edge, including myself. You know, we remember what 2021 was like when we were all in our homes and many of us didn't have power to heat our houses. So it's sort of triggering, I think, for a lot of people when ERCOT makes these calls to ask people, even voluntarily, like they did recently, to reduce their power use on the grid. So, yes, I think people, in response to the story we did about the money coming, were really glad to see that. And it's going to take some time for the state to set up how exactly it wants to distribute those funds. But I'm sure they'll be doing it as efficiently as they can.
So you anticipate this could possibly be a process that takes months, years? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure totally about the timeline. The legislature has been working on this also since 2021 when that storm started. So there's already rules in place for power plants. So the power generators had to weatherize their equipment. And this is looking more at the grid infrastructure. So I would imagine it'll depend on what programs exactly they decide to pursue, what the timeline is going to be on that.
Well, certainly not an easy task ahead, but one that hopefully will bring some relief to the state. Emily Foxhall, we thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.